Hey everybody, Nate Lee here with Bluegrass Unlimited, and I'm going to give you some tips on how to make better tone. If you're into that sort of thing, then make sure to subscribe to the Bluegrass Unlimited channel and hit that like button so that YouTube will show this video to more people like you. So let's get started. Now, tone is made in two steps. First, there's the picking hand, which starts the tone, and whatever your picking hand does, that's as good as your tone's going to get. Once you've mastered that, your fretting hand decides how good or bad that tone is going to be. So it either helps enhance that tone or it can make it sound bad. We can either head in this direction or maybe in that direction. So I'm going to show you some tips and some exercises for honing your tone both in your picking hand and in your fretting hand. Let's get started. Now, the picking hand starts your tone, and your tone's only going to be as good as the pick stroke that you make. So this is really important. A good tone starts with having a secure, efficient pick grip. Now, I recommend holding your pick between the side of your index finger and the pad of your thumb, like this. Now, there's a number of ways to hold your pick, but this is the one that the most really good mandolin players use. So play the odds and go with this one. But if you're using a different pick grip, you can still do these exercises today just fine. You can always change that pick grip later on. Now, making a good tone with your pick, besides having a good pick grip, starts with gripping the pick just tightly enough that when it touches and pushes through the string, that the pick only moves a little bit in your hand. You don't want it flip-flopping around in your hand. You want it to just move a tiny bit, and we'll talk about where you want to feel that movement here in a moment. So the first thing you're going to do is just rest your pick on the E string, and then gently press downward with your thumb, and try not to let the pick push through the string, because we're trying to feel what does the pick feel like when we make good tone. So as you press on that string with your pick, you should be starting to feel some leverage from the pick. And where you should be feeling that as the pick hits the string is you should be feeling that come up at the bottom side of your thumb right here. And you should feel it pushing in to your index finger right there. So the pick will be moving up in that direction as it pushes on the string, and you're going to feel some leverage there. Now we're going to go ahead and place it back on the string. We're going to keep putting that pressure, and then we're going to let the pick push through the string. And when you've got the right amount of squeeze with your index and your thumb, just enough to feel that leverage, but not enough to let it wiggle around. And when you push through the string, not so hard that it makes a buzzy, rattly sound, but firmly through the string, you're going to get a bigger, fatter tone. So we're just going to repeat that over and over. Place your string, or place your pick, gently push through the string. Now we're going to start to streamline this. We're going to stop resting on the string, and we're going to make it one motion. While you're doing this, I want you to experiment with how hard you play. So how much motion you're putting from your hand, how much momentum. I want you to really listen what Jonathan Harnum calls staring with your ears. Really listen for the qualities of the tone. Pay attention to what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, and also how you feel when you play the pick strokes. So if you felt really excited when you made your best tones, you can try to make yourself feel that way in the future, and you're more likely to get those tones again. Now, each of these steps you should spend several minutes a day, preferably 5 minutes a day on your technique just to begin. We'll talk about that some more at the end of this video. And this should not be a one and done exercise. This should be something you do every single day. Now that's the motions for your downstrokes. You want to repeat those on all of your strings. And now let's look at the upstroke. Now we did the E string for the downstroke because there's nothing in its way. It's a little easier to do. We're going to do the G string for the upstroke for the same reason. So now we're going to rest our pick on the G string and we're going to gently push up with your index finger. And you may be getting support from your other fingers too. That's totally okay. So we're going to gently push up. And now we should be feeling the opposite leverage. You should now be feeling the pick pushing down toward the tip of your index finger and up on the top of your thumb over here. So it's the opposite leverage from what we got when we played the downstroke. And then we're just going to rest that pick on the G string again and gently press, feeling that leverage, and then we're going to let the pick slip through. Now if you get a buzz when you play, you can always move a little bit farther from the fingerboard. As long as you're not playing too hard, and if your mandolin's set up correctly, you should be able to play right here. That's where the warmest tone is, very close to the fingerboard. But if you need to, move it back a little bit. This technique works the same anywhere from the fingerboard all the way back to the bridge. So now we're going to place that pick again. We're going to press and let it slip through. Just like the last exercise, we're going to start to take away that moment where we hesitate and press, and we're going to turn it into a single motion. Now, as you do this, you want to make sure that both of your strings are getting contact from the pick. So when you're playing the G string, you want to make sure you hear both of them, not just one of them. When you're playing with the E string, you want to make sure you hear both of them, not just one. And an easy way to do that is look at the middle of your string. And when you play the string, you'll see it vibrating there. You should see it go fuzzy in the middle of the string. Just get blurry. If they're not both getting blurry like that, then you're not hitting both of them. So keep an eye on that because it's really, really important. Or else you'll sound like you're just playing with half of the strings you have because you will be. So the next step is go through and practice those upstrokes on all of the other strings. And then, once you've done that, you can move on to doing alternating strokes. So now that we've worked on your picking hand, which starts the tone and determines how good your tone can be, we're going to work on your fretting hand, which then decides, is the tone going to still be good after you put down a finger? So for your fretting hand, there are two things that are important. One of them is the position in the fret box, how close to the fret wire your finger is or how far away from the fret wire your finger is. And then how much pressure we put on the strings, or how far we push down. And we're going to work on both of those things. Now that we've practiced with your picking hand, we're going to practice getting better quality tone from your fretting hand. Now, even if your pick is making a really good tone at the start, your fretting hand can make that tone better or it can make it way, way worse. So we're going to look at two things, starting with the placement of the finger in the fret box. Now, when I say the fret box, I mean the space between one fret wire and the next fret wire. So this is the 5th fret wire right here. And we want to place ourselves, if we're going to play the 5th fret, we want to place our finger as close as we can to that fret wire without actually being on top of the fret wire. We want to be right next to it, so close that it looks like we might even be on top of the fret wire. Now, if it looks like I'm just the tiniest little bit on top of the fret wire, here's a pro tip. I am. I'm just the tiniest little bit on top of the fret wire. That takes some of the high range or high frequency sounds out of the note and warms it up a little bit, so you'll get warmer tone. But I'm just barely over that fret wire. And that's where you want to be too. That'll allow you to get a nice clear tone. Now you'll want to practice placing each of your fingers in every fret until you have it mastered, and when you practice tunes, do the same thing. Play them very slowly and practice putting your finger in the right part of the fret box. But there's one more really important factor, and that is how far you push down with your finger. Now most mandolin players push too hard with their fingers on the string, and it causes the notes to get out of tune and it diminishes the tone quite a bit. So the next exercise is to practice getting that right amount of pressure. So I want you to just imagine that distance between the string and the fret wire. It's not very much for most mandolin setups. It is about 30 or 40 thousandths of an inch, so a really small amount. So we don't have to push that far to push a string down to the fret wire. So imagine that space between the string and the fret wire. And when the string's not pushed down at all, we're going to call that 0% pressure. So if your finger's touching the string but not actually pushing down, we're calling that 0% pressure. If your finger is pushed all the way down to the point where the string can now make a clear tone on that note, we're going to call that 100% pressure. Now you can push past that. You can actually push past the fret wire, and that's where the bad tone happens. So you want to be very careful about that. Now the exercise we're going to do to practice that is we're going to first make a nice clear note, and then without moving your finger from its place, just relax your finger so it's not pushing down anymore. We're at 0% pressure on that string. And I want you to just push down 10% of that distance and play the note. Probably sounds pretty muted. Now push down 20%. Might be starting to hear a little bit of a note. 30%. 40%. 50%. Now I find that most people, by the time they reach 40 or 50%, already have a full sounding note. If that happened to you, that's totally okay. Most people don't realize that you don't have to push that far to get a clear note. And having a misunderstanding of how far you have to push your finger will diminish your tone and also slow you down when you want to play quickly. So what you'll want to do next is just start over and recalibrate. If what you thought was 50% was actually 100%, then just recalibrate. Keep doing this exercise over and over. You don't have to count with percentages if you don't want to. Just gradually add pressure till you get a clean note. So here, not quite there. It's a little buzzy. Add a little more pressure. And there it is. I'll do it one more time. And there it is. If you do those two exercises in your fretting hand, you're going to be able to finish the tone just as good as the tone that your picking hand started, and it's going to make every single thing you know how to play sound better. And that's going to make you sound like you've got a better mandolin and sound more professional all the time. Now that you've learned some exercises for honing your tone, both in the picking hand and in the fretting hand, the next step is to practice. So make sure to practice very slowly and carefully. And don't try to make a cold turkey change to your technique. That almost never works. A better way to do it is practice for 5 minutes a day on your picking hand and your fretting hand technique, and gradually that new tone is going to start to spill into everything you play. If you're feeling ambitious, you could spend 5 minutes a day on each hand, or even more than that, but just start with 5 minutes a day. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to learn more, make sure to subscribe to the Bluegrass Unlimited channel. You can also check out my YouTube channel, Play Nately, where I teach you some more cool stuff. Or if you want to take private lessons from me, you can visit playnately.com and sign up for some private lessons, and we'll work on this together. Until next time, bye everybody.